I am Victoria Chen, 29 years old, and until 2 months ago, I believed being the dependable daughter meant something to my parents. Then came that email: "We want a peaceful Thanksgiving with just Marcus's family this year. Perhaps you could sit this one out. We need space." 7 words that destroyed 15 years of perfect facades. I replied with 3 words: "Have a wonderful time." They had no idea I had just closed on a lakeside cabin in Montana, or that I was about to host the Thanksgiving celebration they would spend decades regretting they missed. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and hit that like and subscribe button if family drama stories help you feel less alone during the holidays. Growing up as the older daughter of Patricia and Stephen Chen, I always carried the burden of perfection. My relationship with my parents was loving but complex. I was the one who excelled in everything: honor roll student, full scholarships, and a career that actually generated income. Yet somehow the spotlight always found my younger brother, Marcus. Marcus was 4 years younger, effortlessly charming, and constantly in crisis. While I worked 2 jobs to fund my education, my parents covered Marcus's entire college expenses. When I saved for 18 months to buy my first apartment, they gifted Marcus a down payment for his house on his 23rd birthday. The pattern was unmistakable, but I kept convincing myself it was just my perception. "Victoria, you understand your brother needs more guidance," Mom would explain whenever I questioned the inequality. "You're so self-reliant and accomplished." Being labeled accomplished became both my superpower and my prison. It meant I was overlooked while Marcus was praised for the most basic achievements. When I graduated summa cum laude from Northwestern University, my parents attended but departed early to help Marcus set up his new business. When I earned my first major promotion at 26, the family celebration dinner somehow transformed into a strategy session for Marcus's career pivot. Despite these patterns, I maintained close family ties: regular phone calls, holiday attendance, and emergency assistance whenever required. I was their go-to person when Marcus's startup failed, covering his mortgage for 4 months. I was the one who researched therapists when my niece struggled with anxiety. Always dependable, always present, always in the shadows. Last year changed everything for me professionally. After 8 years at Quantum Solutions, I was promoted to Senior Director of Strategic Development. The role included equity options, a substantial salary bump, and responsibilities I had earned through relentless dedication. For the first time, I felt secure enough to pursue a longtime dream: owning a piece of the Montana wilderness I had fallen in love with during a college hiking trip. The cabin wasn't an impulse buy. I had been planning and saving for years, waiting for the perfect property and the right moment. When a 150-year-old log cabin with private lake access came on the market in the Glacier National Park region, I knew it was destined to be mine. The purchase finalized rapidly, and by September, I was the proud owner of Serenity Lodge. I hadn't informed my family yet, planning to surprise them with photos during Thanksgiving. While my career soared, Marcus's family continued struggling. His wife Rachel jumped between jobs, never finding stability. They had 2 wonderful children, Lily and Owen, whom my parents cherished as their only grandchildren. My status as single and childless was another strike against me in the family hierarchy, despite my insistence that I was completely content with my choices. "You just haven't found your person yet," my mother would say, as if my successful career and meaningful friendships were temporary fillers until the real life of marriage and parenthood commenced. Beyond my immediate family, I maintained strong relationships with my cousins Jake and Emma, my father's sister's children. We had grown up sharing holidays together at our grandfather's farm, creating bonds that endured into adulthood. Jake was now an emergency physician in Denver, married with twin toddlers, while Emma worked as a marine biologist in Portland. We communicated frequently, sharing professional victories and personal struggles in ways I never could with my parents or brother. My father's brother, Uncle Richard, was the family member who understood the dynamics most clearly. A retired therapist at 58, he had never had children but lived a rich life filled with volunteer work, travel, and deep friendships. He had always been my champion and confidant. "Your parents love you, Victoria," he once told me. "But they don't truly see you. They see their expectations, the daughter who doesn't need them. It's unfair, but recognizing it might help you find peace." Thanksgiving had always been our family's most sacred tradition. My mother planned for weeks, preparing ancestral recipes passed down through generations. My father managed logistics, sleeping arrangements, and which games would be played. Extended family traveled from across the region, and for one long weekend, the Chen home became our world's center. Last year's Thanksgiving had been especially painful. I had brought my then boyfriend David, hoping my parents would finally see me as a whole person with a romantic life. Instead, they seated us with the teenagers because we ran out of space, while Rachel's parents received spots at the adults' table. When I announced my promotion during dessert, my mother smiled briefly before redirecting the conversation to Marcus's volunteer coaching at Owen's soccer league. David and I ended things 6 weeks later, with my family dynamics listed among the contributing factors. Despite everything, I still anticipated Thanksgiving this year. With my new cabin and career milestone, I finally had something concrete to demonstrate my worth. Maybe this would be the year they finally recognized me. Until that email shattered everything. The message arrived on a Wednesday morning as I was reviewing quarterly reports. My phone chimed with my mother's distinctive notification sound, and I smiled, expecting our typical pre-Thanksgiving coordination call just 3 weeks away. Instead, I read, "Hi, sweetie. Dad and I have been discussing, and we want a peaceful Thanksgiving with just Marcus's family this year. Perhaps you could sit this one out. We need space. You understand, right? Love you." I stared at the screen, reading the message 4 times to ensure I comprehended correctly. My hands shook slightly as I placed the phone on my desk, the quarterly reports forgotten. I felt emotions crash over me in waves: shock, pain, rage, and finally a strange clarity. This wasn't new behavior, just the most obvious example yet. I scrolled through our text history, seeing the patterns with fresh perspective. Last Christmas, "We're doing gifts for just the children this year. Don't worry about bringing anything." My birthday in April, "We might be delayed to dinner. Marcus has a parent-teacher meeting." Even casual conversations always circled back to my brother's life and challenges. The memories flooded back unbidden. Thanksgiving last year had been particularly telling. I had arrived early to assist with preparations, bringing premium wines carefully selected to complement each course. My mother had stored them without comment, later serving grocery store wine because Rachel's parents prefer it. My father had spent the entire weekend discussing Marcus's business plans and my nephew's baseball statistics, barely inquiring about my promotion. "Your promotion is wonderful, honey," my mother had said when I finally mentioned it directly. "But let's not make it the focus. Not everyone here is as fortunate professionally." The memory of those words stung anew as I reread her email. "We want a peaceful Thanksgiving," implied my presence created conflict. Just Marcus's family drew a clear line between who was essential and who was expendable. "You understand, right?" assumed my continued compliance with being marginalized. Dr. Martinez, my therapist of 4 years, had been gently helping me recognize these patterns. During our session just the previous week, she had asked a question that now echoed in my mind. What would happen if you prioritized your own needs the way your parents prioritize Marcus's? My initial instinct was to respond with hurt and fury. I drafted several replies, fingers racing across the keyboard. "After 29 years of attending every family event, this is my reward. Would you like me to stop paying for Lily's piano lessons too, or just my physical presence that's unwelcome? I understand perfectly that I've never mattered as much as Marcus." I deleted them all. Taking a deep breath, I remembered another piece of Dr. Martinez's guidance. You can only control your response, not their behavior. That's when the inspiration struck. The cabin in Montana, the connections with extended family who had always valued me genuinely, the opportunity to create something new, something mine. Instead of fighting for a seat at a table where I wasn't wanted, I could create my own table. Instead of trying to prove my worth to people determined not to see it, I could surround myself with those who already did. With newfound calm, I typed my response: "Have a wonderful time." Those 4 words felt more powerful than any angry essay. They offered no resistance to push against, no guilt to manipulate, no emotion to dismiss, just acceptance and the beginning of my freedom. As I sent the email, I felt something shift inside me. The constant ache of seeking approval began to fade, replaced by excitement for what I could build. My parents didn't know about the cabin yet. Nobody did. They had no idea their rejection was about to become the catalyst for something magnificent. That evening, I sat on my apartment balcony overlooking Lake Michigan, notebook in hand, planning my alternative Thanksgiving. The hurt was still there, a dull ache in my chest, but alongside it grew a sense of possibility. For the first time in my adult life, I would celebrate a holiday entirely on my terms. Thanksgiving in Montana, I wrote at the top of the page, then began listing people I wanted to include. People who had shown me genuine love and appreciation. People who saw me clearly. People whose company brought joy rather than anxiety. As the list expanded, so did my determination. This wasn't just an alternative plan. It was a statement of self-worth, a boundary established not in anger but in self-respect. A new tradition born from the ashes of exclusion. By midnight, my heart felt lighter than it had in years. The message that had begun the day as painful rejection had transformed into an unexpected gift permission to finally put myself first. With only 3 weeks until Thanksgiving, I had to move swiftly. The next morning, I started making calls, beginning with Uncle Richard. "They did what?" he exclaimed when I told him about my parents' email. "Oh, Victoria, I'm so sorry, that's beyond thoughtless." "Actually, I'm not sorry anymore," I replied, surprising myself with the honesty in those words, "because I've decided to do something different this year, and I'm hoping you'll be part of it." I described the cabin, the log walls, the pristine lake, and the charming nearby town. "I'm hosting my own Thanksgiving there, and I'd love for you to come." The line went quiet before Uncle Richard responded, his voice thick with emotion. "My dear girl, I would be honored, and may I say how proud I am of you right now." That first positive response gave me courage to continue. I called my cousins Jake and Emma next, both immediately accepting. "Are you serious? Thanksgiving in Montana instead of Aunt Patricia's dry conversations? I'm booking flights immediately," Emma laughed. "What about your parents?" Jake asked carefully. "Do they know about this?" "They've chosen a peaceful holiday with just Marcus's family," I explained. "This is my response." "Victoria," Jake said after a pause, "this has been overdue, count us in." My aunt and uncle, Stephen's brother David and his wife Maria, were equally enthusiastic. Their son Alex, currently in graduate school, was thrilled at the prospect of an unconventional Thanksgiving. Even my mother's sister, Aunt Jennifer, and her partner Susan, who typically spent holidays with Susan's family, rearranged their plans to join us. As confirmations arrived, I felt growing validation. These people valued me enough to change their holiday plans on short notice, to book flights, to embrace something new. Their enthusiasm was healing wounds I hadn't realized were so deep. The logistics were complex but invigorating. I worked with a local property management company in Montana to prepare the cabin, ordering additional bedding, stocking the kitchen, and arranging for transportation from the airport. I researched local suppliers to source ingredients for our Thanksgiving feast, planning a menu that would honor American traditions while incorporating regional Montana specialties. The most unexpected contact came 5 days after I began making arrangements. A text from Rachel, Marcus's wife. "Can we talk? It's about Thanksgiving." Cautiously, I called her during my lunch break. "Victoria, I heard you're not coming for Thanksgiving," she began. "That's correct," I replied neutrally, not elaborating. "Look, things are tense right now," she continued. "Marcus doesn't know I'm calling. Your parents told us they suggested you might prefer to skip this year, but something feels wrong about it." I appreciated her diplomatic phrasing. Rachel had always been observant about family dynamics, often giving me sympathetic looks during particularly egregious displays of favoritism. "I'm doing something different this year," I said. "I bought a cabin in Montana, and I'm hosting Thanksgiving there." The line went silent before Rachel laughed. "You're kidding. That's incredible, Victoria. Wait, does anyone else know about this?" "Most of the extended family will be there," I confirmed. "Uncle Richard, the cousins, Aunt Jennifer's family." Another silence, longer this time. "Marcus and I had an argument with your parents last week," she finally said. "About money again. They promised to help with Lily's tutoring costs, then backed out, saying they need to establish boundaries. Suddenly, they're all about boundaries." I wasn't sure how to respond, but Rachel continued. "I know it's complicated between you and Marcus, but would there be room for us? The kids would love Montana, and honestly, I can't face another Thanksgiving with your parents right now." My immediate reaction was resistance. Marcus had always been the family favorite. Would inviting him just recreate the same dynamics in my space? But as I considered Rachel's request, I realized excluding them would be making decisions based on pain rather than healing. Let me think about it, I said honestly. There's room physically, but I need to ensure this feels right emotionally. That evening, I called Dr. Martinez for an emergency session. Am I crazy to consider including Marcus and his family? Wouldn't that just bring all the old patterns to Montana? What are you afraid would happen? She asked. That he'll become the center of attention again, that I'll be overshadowed in my own home. Who would put him at the center? The question stopped me cold. In Montana, there would be no parents playing favorites. The dynamics would be different because the key players would be different. And perhaps, away from our parents' influence, Marcus and I could find a new way to connect. The next day, I called Rachel back. You're all welcome to come, but Rachel, this needs to be different. I need Marcus to understand this is my space, my celebration. I understand, she said quietly. And Victoria, thank you. I think this could be healing for everyone. As Thanksgiving approached, excitement built with each confirmed flight, each menu decision, each preparation completed at the cabin. What had begun as a reaction to rejection was transforming into something joyful and intentional. I was creating a new tradition, one founded on mutual respect and genuine connection. The day before my departure to Montana, I received another email from my mother about Thanksgiving logistics. What time should we expect Marcus's family? No mention of me or my absence. It was final confirmation that I had made the right decision. They'll let you know their plans, I replied simply, then turned my phone off and finished packing for Montana. The flight from Chicago to Missoula gave me 4 hours of uninterrupted time to process what I was doing. Somewhere over the Rockies, I realized I wasn't running away from my family problems. I was running toward something new, something authentic, something mine. Landing at Missoula, Montana airport that crisp Wednesday morning, I felt peace wash over me. The mountain air, the expansive sky, the sense of possibility, everything welcomed me back to the landscape I had fallen in love with years ago. I collected my rental car and began the 2-hour drive to the glacier region, windows down, breathing the pristine November air. The cabin exceeded even my expectations. Nestled on 50 acres with private lake access, the 150-year-old log structure had been lovingly maintained by its previous owners. Thick timber walls, a stone fireplace that dominated the main room, and wraparound porches gave it authentic charm, while modern amenities ensured everyone would be comfortable. I spent that first day exploring every corner of my new property. The main house had 4 bedrooms, each with rustic character. The master suite featured floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake. 3 guest rooms occupied the upper level, while a converted loft space contained a charming 5th bedroom, perfect for the children. A separate guest cabin would house additional visitors. The kitchen became my immediate favorite space. Rustic yet functional, with copper pots hanging from wooden beams and a massive farmhouse table that could seat 16. It felt like the heart of the home. I imagined family gatherings extending late into the evening, filled with conversation and laughter. My nearest neighbors, the Andersons, stopped by that afternoon, bringing a basket of local preserves and a bottle of huckleberry wine, a regional specialty. Despite being strangers, we managed warm conversation. They were delighted by my plans for an American Thanksgiving and promised to recommend the best local sources for fresh ingredients. Thursday morning, I ventured into the nearby town of Whitefish. The farmers' market was bustling with vendors selling everything from organic vegetables to handcrafted goods. I filled my baskets with local specialties, bison steaks, wild mushrooms, crisp apples, and colorful root vegetables. The butcher recommended a heritage turkey from a nearby ranch, which he promised to prepare for pickup the following day. Returning to the cabin, I began preparing lists and making what I could in advance. Cranberries weren't locally available, so I decided to make sauce with local choke cherries instead. I adapted my grandmother's stuffing recipe to incorporate regional bread and herbs. The fusion of American tradition and Montana ingredients felt symbolic of this new chapter I was creating. The first arrivals came early Friday morning. Uncle Richard had coordinated with Jake and Emma to share a rental car from the airport. Hearing tires on the gravel drive, I rushed out to greet them. Victoria, this is absolutely stunning, Uncle Richard exclaimed, embracing me tightly. You've created something truly magical here. Jake and Emma were equally enthusiastic, exploring the grounds with childlike wonder. I can't believe you kept this secret, Emma said, linking arms with me. This is the most beautiful property I've ever seen. Throughout the day, more family members arrived. Aunt Jennifer and Susan brought Alex, who immediately claimed the loft bedroom. Uncle David and Aunt Maria were the last to arrive before dinner, bringing cases of wine selected by David, a passionate sommelier. I had prepared a casual welcome dinner of elk stew, fresh bread, and local cheeses. As we gathered around the farmhouse table, conversation flowing easily, I felt a sense of rightness that had been missing from family gatherings for as long as I could remember. Here, there were no hierarchies, no favorites, just genuine interest in each other's lives. The most tense moment came with Marcus's arrival. Rachel had rented an SUV large enough for their family, and they pulled up just as the sun was setting behind the mountains, casting golden light across the lake. I stood on the front porch, watching their approach with mixed hope and apprehension. Marcus emerged from the vehicle first, his expression uncertain. We hadn't spoken directly since my parents' email, communicating only through Rachel. For a moment, we just looked at each other across the gravel drive. Then Lily and Owen burst from the car, breaking the tension. Aunt Victoria, they shouted, running toward me. At 8 and 6, they were still young enough to be uncomplicated in their affection. I knelt to hug them, then straightened to face my brother. Welcome to Serenity Lodge, I said simply. Marcus stepped forward, his eyes taking in the property. It's incredible, he said quietly. Then, with visible effort, thank you for including us. It wasn't an apology or acknowledgement of past dynamics, but it was a beginning. I nodded, then turned to help Rachel with luggage. That evening, I gave everyone a tour of the property. The cabin came alive with exclamations of delight, and the sounds of people choosing rooms and settling in. Lily and Owen were ecstatic about sharing the loft space with their older cousin Alex, who had promised to teach them card games and help them spot wildlife. We ended the tour in the kitchen where I had laid out local cheeses, bread, and wine for an impromptu late-night snack. As we gathered around the farmhouse table, Uncle David raised his glass. To Victoria, he said, for bringing us together in this beautiful place. I think this might be the beginning of a new family tradition. As glasses clinked and smiles were exchanged, I caught Marcus watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. When our eyes met, he didn't look away but raised his glass slightly in acknowledgement. It was a small gesture, but in that moment, it felt significant. Later, as I prepared for bed in my new room, I realized I hadn't checked my phone all day. When I finally did, there were 4 messages from my mother, all asking about Marcus's travel plans. Not one mentioned me or wondered where I was. The familiar hurt flickered briefly, but this time it was quickly replaced by something else, gratitude for the genuine connections I was experiencing with the rest of my family. Setting my phone aside, I stepped onto my porch and looked out over the moonlit lake. Tomorrow would be Thanksgiving, and for the first time, I was truly anticipating it. Thanksgiving morning dawned clear and cold. I woke early, before sunrise, and slipped downstairs to start the coffee. Standing in the kitchen doorway, watching the first light touch the lake, I felt profound peace. This place was mine. This day was mine. This celebration would be what I chose to make it. The cabin gradually came to life around me. Uncle Richard joined me first, offering to drive to town for fresh pastries. Aunt Jennifer appeared next, immediately taking charge of breakfast preparations with quiet efficiency. One by one, family members filtered downstairs in pajamas and robes, creating a comfortable, intimate atmosphere I had never experienced at my parents' formal holiday gatherings. After a leisurely breakfast, we divided into teams. Jake, Emma, and I would handle the main cooking. Uncle David and Marcus took the children to explore the town and gather last-minute supplies. Aunt Maria and Rachel worked on setting the long dining table, while Uncle Richard and Alex arranged a beverage station and built a fire in the great stone fireplace. The kitchen became command central, filled with delicious aromas and lively conversation. I showed Jake and Emma where everything was stored, and we began preparing dishes together. The turkey, collected from the ranch the day before, was seasoned with herbs from the cabin's garden. Emma prepared her famous sweet potato casserole, while Jake tackled the mashed potatoes and gravy. I can't remember the last time I enjoyed Thanksgiving preparations this much, Emma commented as she chopped vegetables. Usually, it's all stress and walking on eggshells around Aunt Patricia's kitchen rules. Remember when she redid your green bean casserole because you used the wrong mushrooms? Jake laughed. Or when she made that passive-aggressive comment about your store-bought rolls? I added, joining their laughter. Uncle Richard checked in occasionally, offering advice or extra hands when needed. "You're doing beautifully," he assured me during one visit. "This is exactly what Thanksgiving should be: collaboration, not competition." Throughout the morning, my phone remained silent. No texts from my parents asking where I was or why I hadn't responded to their messages. It seemed they had accepted my absence without question, which confirmed once again that I had made the right choice. Around noon, Marcus returned with the children, their cheeks flushed from the cold, arms laden with fresh flowers from the local florist and bottles of local cider. Lily and Owen excitedly showed me the words they had learned from the shopkeepers. "Thank you, please, and have a nice day," Owen recited proudly, "and I can say Happy Thanksgiving too." As I praised their enthusiasm, I noticed Rachel watching from the doorway, her expression softening. It occurred to me that this might be the first time she was seeing me interact with her children without our parents present, without the subtle comparisons and competition they fostered between Marcus and me. The afternoon progressed in a whirl of activity. The dining table was transformed with linen runners, candles, and flower arrangements. The children created handmade place cards for everyone, decorating them with drawings of turkeys and mountain scenes. Alex taught Lily and Owen how to fold napkins into elaborate shapes, resulting in a table setting that was both elegant and playfully personal. Around 3:00, as the turkey roasted and side dishes were being finalized, multiple phones around the cabin chimed almost simultaneously. I was crimping the edge of a pie crust when Aunt Maria called from the living room. "Victoria, you might want to see this." I wiped my hands and joined the others who were gathered around Uncle David's phone. He handed it to me wordlessly. It was a text from my mother. "David, are you and Maria doing something for Thanksgiving? Marcus isn't answering our calls and we're getting worried. We're supposed to be having dinner in an hour." Similar messages had gone to Jake, Emma, and Uncle Richard. Everyone had received some version of the same question, as my parents slowly realized that not only was Marcus missing, but apparently the entire extended family had other plans. "They still don't know," Emma said, looking at me. "Should we tell them?" I considered the question carefully. Part of me wanted them to discover through social media later, to feel the full impact of what they had missed. But that approach felt petty, motivated by hurt rather than healing. "Let's wait until after dinner," I decided. "Today is about us, about this new tradition we're creating. Let's keep it positive." Everyone nodded in agreement, and we returned to our preparations. Marcus remained quiet during this exchange, but as we walked back to the kitchen together, he finally spoke directly to me. "I should have told them we were coming here," he admitted. "I just couldn't figure out how to explain it without making them feel bad or making myself feel worse." "You don't owe them an explanation," I replied. "Neither of us do." Marcus looked at me for a long moment. "When did you become so strong, Victoria?" The question caught me off guard. I don't know if it's strength exactly, maybe just self-preservation. "Well, whatever it is, I respect it." He hesitated, then added, "And I'm sorry for many things." Before I could respond, Owen burst into the kitchen, announcing that the table was ready for inspection. The moment passed, but something had shifted between us, a beginning of understanding, perhaps. As evening approached, the final preparations came together. The turkey emerged from the oven, golden and fragrant. Side dishes were transferred to serving bowls. Wines were uncorked to breathe. Everyone disappeared briefly to change for dinner, returning in festive attire that struck the perfect balance between celebration and comfort. Just before we gathered at the table, I stepped outside for a moment alone. The sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. I took a deep breath of the crisp air, filling my lungs and my heart with gratitude. This was not the Thanksgiving I had planned at the beginning of the month, but standing there, I couldn't imagine wanting anything different. The dining room of Serenity Lodge had never looked more beautiful. Candles flickered on the long table, casting warm light over the faces of my family. The windows framed the last colors of sunset over the lake. Crystal glasses sparkled, silver serving dishes gleamed, and the room was filled with the mingled aromas of roasted turkey, fresh bread, and pies cooling in the kitchen. As everyone found their places, I remained standing at the head of the table, suddenly overcome with emotion. These people had crossed the country to be with me, choosing my celebration over familiar tradition. Looking at their expectant faces, I felt a surge of love and belonging that nearly brought me to tears. Raising my wine glass, I took a moment to compose myself before speaking. Thank you all for being here. A few weeks ago, I never could have imagined this moment, but now, I can't imagine being anywhere else. You've helped me create something truly special, and I'm grateful for each of you. Uncle Richard stood next, his glass raised. To Victoria, who has not only opened her beautiful home to us, but has reminded us what family should truly be about: unconditional love and genuine support. I've watched you grow into an exceptional woman, my dear, and I couldn't be prouder of the strength and grace you've shown. His words touched something deep inside me, a place starved for the very validation my parents had always withheld. To be seen, to be acknowledged, to be celebrated for who I was rather than what I could provide, it was healing in ways I hadn't known I needed. The meal progressed with ease and joy I had never experienced at family gatherings. Dishes were passed, compliments exchanged, and conversations flowed naturally between serious topics and lighthearted banter. Jake shared stories about his emergency room experiences, while Emma described her latest marine research project. Uncle David and Aunt Maria entertained us with tales from their recent trip to New Zealand. When the turkey platter reached Marcus, he served his children first, then turned to me with an unexpected smile. "This is the most delicious turkey I've ever had at Thanksgiving," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Mom would be envious. The table went momentarily quiet at the mention of our parents, then erupted in laughter, the tension broken. Others began sharing their own stories of previous Thanksgiving disasters and family dynamics. Remember when Aunt Patricia refused to let anyone help in the kitchen, then complained for weeks about how no one helped? Uncle David chuckled. Or when Uncle Stephen spent the entire meal talking about his golf scores, and then got offended when people started their own conversations, added Aunt Maria. It was cathartic, this gentle acknowledgement of difficulties we had all experienced but rarely discussed. Not mean-spirited, just honest. And somehow, in the sharing, those memories lost some of their power. As dessert was served pumpkin pie alongside a huckleberry tart made with local berries, Alex suggested we continue the tradition of sharing what we were thankful for. One by one, family members spoke, their answers ranging from heartfelt to humorous. When it came to Rachel's turn, she looked directly at me. "I'm thankful for Victoria's generosity in including us," she said sincerely, "and for showing us that sometimes the best traditions are the new ones we create ourselves." Marcus nodded beside her, adding quietly, "I'm thankful for second chances." After dessert, as coffee was being poured, Lily suggested we take a group photo to commemorate our first Montana Thanksgiving. We gathered in front of the fireplace, arms around each other, smiling genuinely. Emma, our designated photographer, captured several shots before suggesting, "Let's post these. Everyone back home will be so curious." The casual comment reminded me of what awaited outside our bubble. My parents still didn't know where everyone was, still expected Marcus and his family for dinner. As if on cue, Marcus's phone rang with my mother's ringtone. He glanced at me questioningly. I nodded, knowing this moment had to come eventually. Marcus answered, putting the phone on speaker. "Hi, Mom." "Marcus, where are you? We've been waiting for hours." Your father is beside himself with worry. "We're fine, Mom. We're having Thanksgiving dinner." "What do you mean? You're supposed to be having Thanksgiving with us. Where are you?" Marcus took a deep breath. "We're in Montana, Mom, at Victoria's cabin." The silence that followed was profound. When my mother finally spoke, her voice was unnaturally calm. "I don't understand. Victoria is in Chicago." "No, I'm not. I called from across the room, moving closer to the phone. I'm in Montana at my new home with the whole family. The whole family, she repeated faintly. Everyone except you and Dad, I confirmed. Uncle Richard, Aunt Jennifer's family, Uncle David and Aunt Maria, Jake, Emma, were all here. Another long silence followed. I could almost hear her mind working, trying to process information that completely upended her understanding of the situation. But we told you we wanted a peaceful Thanksgiving, she finally said, her voice mixing confusion and accusation. Yes, you did, I replied evenly, and that's exactly what we're having. The line went dead, she had hung up. Within minutes, phones throughout the cabin began chiming with notifications. My parents were calling everyone, demanding explanations, expressing hurt and confusion. Most calls went unanswered as we collectively decided to return to our celebration, to not let their reaction intrude on the warmth and connection we had created. Later, as family members dispersed to various corners of the cabin for quiet conversations or games, Emma approached to show me the photos she had posted. They were beautiful captures of our gathering, the elegant table, the joyful faces, the log walls, and lake view visible through the windows. She had captioned it simply, "Best Thanksgiving ever, Montana New Traditions." The comments were already accumulating, friends and acquaintances expressing admiration and envy. But the one that caught my eye was from my college friend Sarah. "Does your mom know you're all there without them?" Bold move, Victoria. It was happening. The carefully constructed narrative my parents had maintained for years, that we were a close, happy family with them at the center, was being challenged publicly. Their social circle would see that their entire extended family had chosen to be with me instead. "Are you okay?" Uncle Richard asked, finding me alone on the porch later. "I am," I replied, realizing with surprise that it was true. "It's strange. I thought I'd feel vindicated or triumphant, but mostly I just feel peaceful." He nodded, wrapping a blanket around his shoulders against the evening chill. "That's how you know this was the right choice. Decisions made from spite bring satisfaction, but never peace." As the evening progressed, the atmosphere remained warm and festive despite the brief interruption. Jake and Emma organized an impromptu dance party in the living room, teaching the children moves to songs from our own childhood. Uncle David and Aunt Maria engaged Marcus in a spirited discussion about craft brewing. Uncle Richard and Alex cuddled on the sofa, looking more relaxed than I had seen them in years. Around 11, as the party was winding down, my phone rang. It was my father. With a deep breath, I stepped outside to take the call. "Where is everyone?" he demanded without preamble. "Your mother is in tears." "I told you, Dad, we're in Montana at my cabin." "You're what? Since when do you have a cabin?" "Since last month. It would have been nice if either of you had been interested enough in my life to know that." The silence that followed told me the barb had hit home. "Why would you do this, Victoria?" he finally asked, his tone softening from anger to genuine confusion. "Why take everyone away for Thanksgiving?" "You told me to sit it out," I reminded him. "You said you wanted space. I gave you exactly what you asked for. We didn't mean for you to take the entire family to another state." "What did you expect me to do, Dad? Sit alone in my apartment eating frozen dinner while you had your peaceful celebration with the family members you actually wanted there?" His sigh was heavy with the first hints of recognition. "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that," I replied, my voice steady, "and it's been like that for as long as I can remember." Before he could respond, I added, "I need to get back to my guests now. We can talk tomorrow if you want." As I ended the call and rejoined the gathering inside, I realized something important had shifted. For the first time, I had spoken my truth without anger or accusation, just simple, calm honesty. And for the first time, my father might have actually heard me. The morning after Thanksgiving dawned with a gentle mist rising from the lake. I woke early, my mind already processing the events of the previous day. Making my way downstairs, I found Uncle Richard already in the kitchen preparing coffee. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, sliding a mug toward me. "Too much processing," I admitted. "Mom and Dad have been calling all night. I finally turned my phone off." He nodded sympathetically. "You'll have to talk to them eventually." "I know, just not sure what to say." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the mist lift as the sun strengthened. One by one, other family members appeared, drawn by the smell of coffee and the fresh pastries Alex had walked to town to purchase. The conversation was subdued but content, everyone still basking in the glow of the previous evening's success. Around mid-morning, as I was helping Lily and Owen build a blanket fort in the living room, Marcus approached with my phone in hand. "It's been ringing nonstop," he said. "Maybe we should just get this over with." Taking a deep breath, I nodded and accepted the phone. "I'll take it in the study." My mother answered on the first ring. "Victoria, finally, we've been trying to reach you all night." "I know, Mom, I needed some space." The irony of echoing her words back to her wasn't lost on me. "We need to talk about what happened yesterday," she continued, her voice tight with controlled emotion. "Your father and I were completely blindsided. Do you have any idea how hurtful it was to discover that the entire family was together without us?" The old guilt reflex kicked in immediately, a lifetime of conditioning to prioritize their feelings over my own. But Dr. Martinez's voice echoed in my mind. "Your feelings are just as valid as theirs." "Do you have any idea how hurtful it was to be told not to come to Thanksgiving?" I countered quietly. "To be excluded from my own family gathering." "That's not what we meant." "What did you mean then? Sit this one out, we need space." Those were your exact words. "We just wanted a quiet holiday with Marcus's family. You know how stressful the big gatherings can be." "They're only stressful because you make them that way, Mom. And they're only big because you invite all of Dad's work colleagues, but somehow couldn't find room for me at the adults' table last year." Her sharp intake of breath told me she remembered that slight, though she had dismissed my feelings about it at the time. "That's not fair," she protested weakly. "None of this has been fair," I replied. "For years, I've watched you prioritize Marcus, make excuses for him, celebrate his smallest achievements while barely acknowledging mine. I've accepted the scraps of your attention and convinced myself it was enough, because that's what good daughters do, right? They don't complain, they don't make waves. They just keep showing up and hoping that someday they'll be seen." The words poured out, years of unspoken hurt finally finding voice, not in anger, but in simple, calm truth. When I finished, the line was so quiet I thought she might have hung up. "Mom." "I'm here," she said, her voice small. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything right now, just listen." Before she could respond, there was commotion on her end of the line, and my father's voice came through. "Victoria, it's Dad. Put Marcus on, please. We need to speak with him." Of course, even now, they were looking past me to Marcus. "He's not available right now," I said, renewed determination straightening my spine. "But I am. I'm right here, trying to have an honest conversation with you both about some very painful dynamics in our family." "This isn't the time." "When is the time, Dad? Because for 29 years, it's never been the right time to discuss how you and Mom have made me feel invisible." "That's ridiculous. We've always supported you." "Have you? When was the last time you asked about my work, my friends, my dreams? When was the last time you celebrated my achievements without immediately changing the subject to Marcus's life?" His silence was telling. "I don't need you to answer right now," I continued, my voice softening. "I just need you to think about it, really think about it." The study door opened and Marcus slipped in, questioning me with his eyes. I nodded, putting the phone on speaker. "Mom, Dad, it's Marcus. I'm here with Victoria." "Marcus, thank goodness. Are you all right? When are you coming home?" My mother's voice immediately brightened. Marcus looked at me steadily as he replied, "We're staying through the weekend as planned. And Mom, you need to listen to what Victoria's saying. She's right." "What do you mean she's right?" "About how you treat her compared to me," Marcus clarified. "I've seen it too for years. I just never said anything because—" He hesitated. "Because it benefited me, I guess, and that wasn't fair." The silence that followed his admission was profound. I reached across the desk to squeeze his hand, overwhelmed by his unexpected support. "I don't understand what's happening," my mother finally said, her voice trembling. "We've always tried to be good parents. We love you both." "I know you do," I acknowledged. "But love without respect or recognition isn't enough. And that's what I've been missing, your respect for my choices, your recognition of my worth outside of what I can do for the family. What do you want from us? My father asked, his usual confidence noticeably absent. I want you to really see me, I answered simply. Not as an extension of yourselves, not as Marcus's sister, not as the reliable one who will always be there no matter how you treat her. Just me, Victoria, with my own life and needs and feelings. Another long pause followed before my mother spoke again, her voice small but steady. We can try. I'm not sure we know how, but we can try. It wasn't complete acknowledgement of everything I'd said, but it was a beginning more than I had honestly expected. That's all I'm asking, I said. And if you're willing to try, you're welcome to join us next year, here at the cabin. Next year, my father questioned. Yes, this is going to be our new tradition. Thanksgiving at Serenity Lodge. After we ended the call, Marcus and I sat in silence for a moment, processing what had just happened. Finally, he spoke. I'm sorry, Victoria, for not speaking up before, for accepting their favoritism all these years. It's not your fault, I told him honestly. They set the dynamic, we just played the roles we were given. Still, I want things to be different between us going forward. I'd like that too. The remainder of the weekend passed in a blur of hiking, shared meals, and genuine connection. We explored the local trails, visited nearby hot springs, and spent evenings around the fire, playing games and sharing stories. With each passing day, I felt myself relaxing more fully into this new reality, one where I was valued, where my home was the gathering place, where family meant mutual support rather than obligation. By Sunday, as family members began departing for their flights home, the cabin felt imbued with new memories and possibilities. Hugs were longer, promises to return more sincere. Even Marcus's goodbye felt different, genuine warmth replacing our usual polite distance. Thank you, he whispered as we embraced, for including us, even when you had every reason not to. That's what family should do, I replied, realizing as I said it that I finally understood what that meant. In the months that followed, small but significant changes emerged in my relationship with my parents. Our weekly calls became more balanced, with questions about my life given equal time. When I shared news about landing a major new client, they listened with genuine interest rather than immediately changing the subject. It wasn't perfect, decades of patterns couldn't be erased overnight, but it was progress. As the next Thanksgiving approached, planning began early. My parents accepted the invitation to Serenity Lodge with a humility that would have been unimaginable a year earlier. The guest list expanded to include close friends as well as family, creating a gathering that was both intimate and vibrant. And when my mother arrived at the cabin, her first words to me were not about the journey or the accommodations, but a simple acknowledgement that had been 29 years in the making. This is extraordinary, Victoria. You've created something beautiful here. I'm so proud of you. Standing in my own home, surrounded by people who truly saw me, I felt a peace I had searched for my entire adult life. The journey hadn't been easy, and there would always be challenges in navigating family dynamics. But I had found my voice, drawn my boundaries, and created a space where I could be fully myself. Sometimes the greatest act of love is not accommodation, but truth. Sometimes the most powerful response to rejection is not anger, but creation. And sometimes the family we need is the one we build ourselves piece by piece, choice by choice, until we find ourselves at home in our own lives. Have you ever had to create your own traditions when family expectations became too much? Share your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to prioritize their own happiness. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. And remember, the most beautiful traditions are often the ones we have the courage to create ourselves.